by the way, Trixie. Hello and good morning. Welcome to episode 110 on Overdosing Chill Live. I'm Yestin Keys. I'm the Managing Director for Overdose here in Southeast Asia, broadcasting from Singapore. Very excited today to be joined by Trixie Khong, founder and CEO at ByInviteOnly. How are you today, Trixie?
Hi, good. Very excited to be on this live. Actually, I have a fear of public speaking. So actually this is much easier because I can only see you. I don't see the guests. So yeah, really excited to have a chat with you. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thrilled to have you. And obviously, we've been working together for a while. And I think bizarrely, this is probably only the second or third time we've actually had a conversation without masks on. Yeah. So it's good to be here in full, as it were. For those of you watching, we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you've got any questions as we're going along, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Going to cover lots of cool stuff today, so I'm expecting people to have lots of questions. So please hit us up, and we will do our best to respond. So Trixie, awesome to have you here. Really interesting brand, really interesting story. Perhaps you could just start by giving us the kind of overview of the brand for people that perhaps aren't familiar with ByInviteOnly.
Yeah, so ByInviteOnly, I started maybe when I was 17 or 18, really hand-making jewelry as a hobby. So it's a brand that is really built from passion, and it really reflects my passion for making things with my own hands and then selling it. So I get a lot of joy from that. So I didn't really plan to start a brand in the beginning. And I would say 13 years down the road, now we are an omnichannel D2C brand. We have 6 physical stores in Singapore, and we really focus on creating designs that are for every occasion and every invite. So that's why the name ByInviteOnly. So we want to be with our customers through their milestones, for weddings, for like their graduation, with their friends, and gifts for their sisters, their moms, and so on. Only very recently we did venture into menswear, and then noticing that we have a lot of customers also in the men's category, and they are exploring our jewelry. So I think really speaking to our customers and understanding what it's on trend is one thing, but like creating designs that are perfect, that will mold into their life, that is kind of our purpose with our design and our brand. I don't know where I've gone all over the place.
No, I think that's a great introduction. Because it's really interesting, right? You said you started when I think you said 17 or 18. So was there like a point when you thought, okay, this is what I like doing, and this can now be a career, or was it more of a kind of gradual kind of side hustle that became a career, or was there like a light bulb moment?
Yeah, it was something gradual, because in the beginning, I would say the first 3 to 5 years, there's not much happening. It's a lot of hustling and trying to get our brand out there, trying to just test and understand what the customer wants. So there was a lot of trial and error, a lot of small fails, and really starting and going back to the drawing block and thinking what works and what doesn't work. So I would say for the first 3 years, it was experimental. I was still studying at that point. I was taking a degree at that point, and I was doing it part-time. And then when I graduated, I was thinking maybe I can try it for a year, and then 1 year became 2 years, 3 years, and then now 13 years. So to be honest, I have not really worked in a in a company full-time before. So I've really started fresh out of graduation and just kept going. Yeah.
Awesome. And you guys, I guess, you began very much as an online brand. Was that deliberate? I mean, did you kind of, obviously the products themselves are inherently kind of tactile and tangible, and, they look amazing, but they look good on you and they feel amazing and so on. But did you deliberately think, right, we're going to start online initially, or did that just kind of happen as part of that evolution?
Yeah, I think 13 years ago, there was a blog movement, and I think Shopify was not really popular back then. I've not discovered Shopify 13 years ago. So online commerce was something very cheap and easy for a young entrepreneur to start and just to test. I didn't come from a wealthy background, so it was really something that was accessible to me. I guess over the years, then Facebook became popular, and then Instagram and so on. And now it's very easy to upload something online, to sell something online. But 13 years ago, we actually started on a blog because it's free. And
okay.
Yeah, so that was more what was available to me. So I was very lucky to be born at a time where I could do this. Instead of having a huge capital to open a store in the very beginning, I had the luxury of testing and just starting in a very gradual manner, and keep small fails and then making mistakes and learning along the way. Yeah.
So was the blog essentially obviously content in terms of, I guess, the occasions, the design process, the materials, and then did people have to just kind of phone you to buy, or did you actually have a checkout or a cart attached to the blog? How was that working?
Yeah, so I think a blog used to be like a journal. So many people in Singapore started to use that as a platform to sell. So we would take pictures and then we would lay down the price and give a description. So we would use that page to really describe the product or describe the brand story. And then I guess separate it into different pages to like about us, how to contact us, and then there's a list of products, really like how a e-commerce website would be. But the payment side of things was really manual. Like you have to do bank transfers, and I couldn't do like international orders and so on. But we were really small. Everything was handmade by me, so there was only one or two pieces of each thing. It was a good start to really get more pocket money when I was still studying, and also give myself like a sense of purpose, I guess, as a young adult. So that was really important for me as I was growing up, figuring what I was going to do with my life, what my career was going to be. And I get a lot of satisfaction knowing that I could make something and then it's being worn by someone else. So that kept me going and kept me motivated to continue. Yeah.
And when did you first discover? I guess just discover the Shopify platform. Then was that a kind of, because you guys must have been quite early onto that in terms of Shopify arriving in Singapore, right?
Yeah, I think looking back on my data, I think it's 2013 we started on the platform. Yeah, so really very early on. I believe we were still paying US dollars then, and then now they are charging in Singapore dollars now. So we really started when Shopify was starting to get big in the US, and then I remember being on Big Cartel once. Yes, so we used that as a platform, but it was not as seamless as Shopify. So then when we it's just me in the company in the first few years. Yeah. So I didn't have any tech background. I didn't have any design like UX. I think at that time this was not really a big thing. So Shopify was really easy.
And obviously, so from kind of blog to Shopify, and then, as you mentioned earlier, you guys have got 6 stores island-wide now, and congratulations on the Gem branch.
Thank you.
I think, you've got some awesome locations, and we'll perhaps talk a bit more about that a bit later on. But how did your kind of first foray into Omnichannel come about? When did you decide, okay, we can open a store?
Yeah. We've always been aware that having an Omnichannel presence is important for us. So maybe giving you a little bit of context, we started as a brand that sells wholesale or consignment. So we would put our pieces in multi-label stores, and they would have their customers discover the many brands that are in their shop. So in Singapore, there used to be a lot of multi-label brands, but slowly those have been shutting over the last few years. As we realized that we don't have control over the data of our customers, we struggle to reinvent ourselves and to innovate because we have no idea who our end consumers are. Our direct customers were the wholesalers and the shops, and it was very difficult for me to get direct feedback from the customers, knowing what they like, and then also tracking the performance of what was selling, what was not selling, unless I go down to the store to speak to the sales associate. So doing small pop-ups really helped, and I always known that having a physical space is very important. So that has always been like a goal for us. When a space came up in 2018, actually, was our first store. It was a small space that didn't have very high rent, and it was quite a prime location, but because the space was really small, it was affordable. And we were really lucky to get that space to have a tryout and see like if it will work. And it was, to be honest, the first store was the hardest one because it taught us so much about how we were not actually ready to open a store at that time. Yeah, so only opening it for the first year did we realize that, we didn't have the right team in place, the structure of the retail team, the hierarchy structure of the retail team, and what was the best combination. Do we go with part-timers? Do we go with full-timers? Is there going to be commission? So a lot of operational lessons that were being learned, but it was a good school and it was good education, to be honest. Our first store will always be dear to our hearts. Now it's closed because the mall that we were in is going into a deep renovation, so we had to close the space. If not, we would continue. But that was a really big lesson for us, which I really encourage. Like if someone is on the fence, to start small, start with a shop that you can learn from and be prepared to receive the lessons that's going to teach you. Yeah.
So that definitely informed. I mean, obviously you've gone on to be fantastically successful in terms of your stores and their location, but I guess that experience really informed that, right? And that's allowed you, I guess, to, from that first year, to roll over. Because if your first store, did you say 2018, and we're on 2022, yes, and you already have, and you've already got 6 stores island wide. So did it come quite quickly after that year of lessons? Did you think, right, okay, we get this, we've got this, and let's go?
Yeah, we had. I worked at a store a lot in the first year. So working at a store myself was really helpful. Understanding the pain points, especially during peak hours or during like lull periods, what the customers, the traffic flow, and which corner of the mall would really work for us. And immersing myself in that space was very helpful. So it definitely informed us on like what kind of locations work best for us. Even within a mall, even if the mall is very successful, there are certain pockets of spaces that are right for the brand. And there are different spaces that are right for different brands, depending on the flow, but it might not be right for my brand. So I think it's first understanding my customers, how they are shopping, what their likes and dislikes, and where they are, and then trying to implement that data into the mall and having a lot of conversations with them to understand their traffic flow, understand their demographics. As we go on, it takes less time to decide whether a location is good for us. So definitely experience will speed that up. Yeah.
That's really interesting. You can probably see in the comments there's a clamour of questions already. I think ByInviteOnly is one of the brands that everyone in the SEA team wants to work on. So hello team, I can see you all there. Just for everyone who's joining now, this is episode 110 of OD and Chill. I'm Yestin Overdose Southeast Asia, and I'm joined by Trixie Khong, who's founder and CEO at ByInviteOnly. You can catch us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So I'm probably going to need to jump in some of these questions because otherwise we're not going to get through them all. So hi, Angela, Azani. So I think, yeah, Raven, how would you describe the experience and essence of your brand in 3 words?
3 words. I would say it's down to earth, 1 word. Down to earth, approachable, despite our name. And I guess empathy is another word, because we really want to be in the shoes of our customers and also be in the shoes of our team when they are serving the customers. So I would say these are the 3 words. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, I think, yeah, I certainly see all of that come through. I really enjoyed reading your post a while back in terms of, the lessons learned during the pandemic, both kind of internally and externally for the business, and how that's kind of preparing you guys for, whatever headwinds are ahead. So I really enjoyed some of the lessons there in terms of the team and customer management. Question from Angela: what do you think are the most important considerations for people who want to start a new business in the current e-com landscape? So topical. Thanks, Angela.
I think maybe starting out slow. I would still do the same thing, starting out online, testing, and if I was selling like a sauce, a homemade sauce, I would go to the supermarket and get someone to try it. And the fundamentals of business never change, and you still need to get your research done, and you still need to test your product. And what I hear a lot from young potential budding entrepreneurs is like, how do I stop perfecting my product and then putting it on the shelves? Because everyone is a perfectionist when it comes to their baby, their product, their service, and there's this fear of like being judged by the market that is preventing someone from starting out or making the first move or launching, preparing years and years and years and not launching anything with many different prototypes. So I would say just put an 80% prototype out there, and then expect some sort of bashing to happen, so that you can keep perfecting it and knowing that what you launch the first time will never be remembered many years down the road, and making many small mistakes and then correcting them. So I would say these are still the most important considerations, starting small. And once you have a viable product and you have found product market fit, that is where I feel like you should double down on your investment. That's where the money should come in, because I always think that money is not something that will help you grow. Money is more like a accelerator, like a fuel that will grow faster. Or if you are failing, actually money would make you fail faster. So I think a lot of misconceptions about like, oh, you need to have a lot of money, I need to save up. But while you're saving up, I think you can always do this in the background, like open an online store. It's not very expensive to do that now. Register a website, do small steps, I guess. And yeah, I think the current e-com landscape is quite expensive for someone to start going into ads and Google and Instagram or Facebook performance marketing and so on. So I think that is more when you are ready to scale. Yeah, so if you're a new business, I think still doing the fundamentals, making sure that your product is right. Yeah.
It's the proof of it doesn't, as you said, doesn't cost money to have the proof of concept. Yeah. Next question from Jess. Thanks, Jess. Love your brand and its purpose, Trixie. Did you find challenges in finding ethical supplies and choosing to produce non-toxic products? A great question. Thank you.
Yes, very difficult. But as we over the last few years, social media has made it very easy for us, because as a collective, we are all requesting for more responsible suppliers, and these are the suppliers that are growing now, and there's a demand for it. So we are seeing the old suppliers that we are working with that were not I wouldn't say not ethical, but not using recycled materials, for example, they are starting to change because of a collective demand for it. So like even down to the Ziploc bags that are holding our products, they are changing to biodegradable ones. They are allowing us to customize it, and in the recent years, it has been easier, but I would say 10 years ago, it was very difficult for us to find even a jewelry supplier that would be nickel-free or lead-free. It would be safe for sensitive skin, because I have sensitive skin myself, which is why we make sure that I don't want to sell products that I can't wear. So that's maybe a selfish reason, which turned out great, because we realized that became our USP. I have really sensitive skin, and I really wanted to make something that I could wear myself. So that was challenging in the beginning. But now, in terms of like, a lot of factories are starting to get BSCI-certified. They are part of the Responsible Jewellery Council, and you can see that at the trade shows, and they put the certificate there proudly. And I think it's something to be really happy about, because everyone is it's a collective movement.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier in the waiting room, didn't we, in terms of like brand purpose? And I think that's where, for ByInviteOnly, there's that huge sense of authenticity that kind of really comes through. And obviously for bigger brands, I guess that's something that obviously brand purpose has a role, but it's almost something they have to find as an afterthought, rather than, it's the origin of the brand in terms of you wanted jewelry that you could wear, and then that's informed the direction, which is fantastic, really. Next question from Ji Ying. Thank you. What are you looking forward to in 2023?
I think just having a full year of no COVID is actually quite exciting.
Yeah.
I guess traveling plans have come back. So like meeting our suppliers and building a better relationship with them. So I was reading this book recently about supply chain. Surprisingly, I wouldn't even imagine myself reading that book, but I realized that the first page, it says like CEOs are spending less than 5% of the time talking to suppliers, when they are spending the most money buying supplies. So I think this needs to change, and we need to have a better, more close relationship with suppliers, and knowing how they are actually producing the products and how they are like doing QC. And I mean, it eventually boils down to customer experience, because the product is actually the king or queen of the entire business and the brand. Because without a good product, at the end of the day, you're just wasting marketing dollars. That's what we really believe in. So we're really strict with our QC, but how can we also make sure that our suppliers are responsible and producing pieces that are the best that we can get. So that's what I'm looking forward to, being able to travel and meet our suppliers, and not having to meet on Zoom, because I think it's really different compared to face-to-face.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's funny, isn't it? Because during the pandemic, there was this, actually, we don't need to spend all this money traveling to meet people. And there's a degree of truth in that. But then there's also a degree of truth in the fact if you've never met someone in person before, and they're a key partner or a key colleague, then it's probably good for you to meet in person at some point.
Yeah, you're spending millions of dollars with that supplier. So I think it's fair that you know who you're working with. So yeah, the human element is difficult to replace.
100%. And another fan. So thank you, Zani. Despite the challenges of COVID, ByInviteOnly have still managed to grow and build up presence for your retail stores in the past 2 years, which is a great point, actually. Are there any key learnings you would like to share?
Key learnings. I think we are still a small brand. We are a small local brand. Compared to a MNC, we have we need to come from a different angle. So during COVID, a lot of big brands closed their stores because they had a very strong physical presence pre-COVID. Maybe they didn't have as big a presence online. So I see that they are shifting online a lot more, but we are going physical in the opposite direction. So we like to see it as during challenges, or even it can be COVID, the recession coming up, or anything like that. I think to find small opportunities and to not get sucked into the negativity or the fear and the stress, and find opportunities to leverage. Because I guess Warren Buffett says, like, when people are selling, it's time to buy. So it's kind of like when the shops are leaving, The malls are more open to talk to small brands. They need the local brands because big brands from overseas are not coming in. And everyone is supporting local because we are trying to keep our local community alive during COVID, making sure that the local brands can survive this difficult time. So I think there was an opportunity for us to really double down on the space, and spaces are getting more available, we can then go in and have an opportunity to even bid for it, because at the end of the day the mall would decide which brand goes in there. So it's a lot of relationship building, a lot of a bit of luck as well, to be honest, because I think space and time plays a lot of if it's the wrong space at the wrong time, we won't be able to open as well, even with money.
Yeah. Money doesn't solve everything, does it? Obviously, good that Azani brought up COVID. I've read a few thought leadership pieces by you in terms of how you managed the business and the team during that time, which I found super inspiring. Maybe you could share with us, what worked and what didn't, and what was the kind of what was that journey? Because obviously, as Azani alluded to, you guys have really come out of it stronger than you went into it.
I think learnings. I feel like everyone is in a survival mode. So I would say I'm very, very lucky to have the team that I have, and during the team that I had at COVID, because some of us have left. But I think with a strong team, we can do anything and everything. And everyone was very cooperative and ready to just play their part. So I think building and giving back to your team is very important, listening to them and making sure that they are taken care of as well. Because when COVID comes, they have the same fears as everyone else. And as a business owner, instead of taking care of your business only, I think it's important to take care of the team and reassure them that, we will do this together, we can come out of this, and just to make sure that everyone is on the same page to start with, so that we could go through this together is really important, and to manage that as well. That was one learning that I had. And I guess a lot of fast decision making was something that I felt was really important, because the rules changed all the time. So it was like 2 people at one time, and then you can go out to eat, and then it became 0, and then it became 5, 8, and it changes every 6 to 8 weeks. So as a business, we had to be really on the ball and not rest on our laurels when it comes to being on top of complying with the rules. When things are opening up as well, making sure that everyone is socially distancing, and our customers are safe when they're going to the store, and making sure that our team is safe as well, because they are in a very high contact area when they are working. So I guess logistically and operationally, there was a lot of things that we had to do. But we learned, it was like a baptism by fire, and we knew we really had to have a lot of last minute meetings and late nights, and everyone was just willing to step up. So I really had a great team to tide us through. Yeah.
That's a really interesting point, and something I was going to ask you. So, I mean, Overdose, we're only, I think, 6.5 years old since we started in Auckland, and really we've probably only really been operating in Singapore for 3 to 4 years. So we're still in a kind of, I guess, almost that kind of growth and baptism by fire stage. What's really interesting is for you guys, there's a bit of a theme there, like you mentioned, in terms of your first foray into retail. Initially, there were a lot of learning. Some things went well, other things didn't, and you did things differently. And then same during the pandemic. What do you think the secret is, as a founder and CEO, what do you think the secret is to building a business that actively grows through those baptisms of fire, right? Because I'm sure there are some businesses that that isn't a good thing. It's a baptism of fire, but it doesn't pan out well. But for you guys, it's almost like, right, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna soak up the learnings, and then we'll be stronger coming out of it. But there must be some, I don't know, there must be some inherent resilience, or whether it's a structure or I mean, you tell us. I'm fascinated by that.
I think it comes down to hiring the right people on the team. That is the most important. I wouldn't say we have always gotten that right. I think it's something that should be a priority. And when the team is happy and they work well together, it creates magic. And that is something that actually fuels me to go into work every day and makes me want to go to the office because everyone's having fun. But at the same time, they are driven and we are results driven and we are proud when we win awards or like when our customers are happy and they write in. So I would say the team hiring is very important. Putting effort into hiring is very important. HR and making sure that the SOPs are in place. So the fundamentals and making sure that the building blocks of your company is taken care of before you have the big plan to do a big collaboration or open 10 stores. I think these are the things that nobody can decide except the CEO or the founder, because you kind of have to decide like how many annual leave this person's gonna have, how much, small things like that matter. And once you get that done, you have SOPs in place and systems in place. So building the systems, building the things that would like make it work is very important to allow them and the team to do their best. Yeah.
It's really interesting and topical. So thank you, Jonathan. You've probably answered some of that question already, but I'm going to read it anyway because I think it's a great question. My partner is a huge fan of your brand, Entrepreneurship. A huge fan of your brand. Entrepreneurship is often glorified, but many don't speak about the blood, sweat, and tears shed along the way. What will you say to budding entrepreneurs out there?
I read this once and it was very early in my career, so I'm gonna say it. So maybe you would hear it from me first, or maybe it's not the first time, but it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. So there was no illusion that it was going to be one of those amazing unicorn tech stories. That doesn't happen very often. I mean, it's very inspirational, but like what you said, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that will be shed along the way. Maybe some happy tears as well. But I think as a brand, as a consumer brand, it takes a long time for people to trust you, and it takes time for people to recognize your brand and to trust and feel comfortable, and then word of mouth will come in and so on. So there's a lot of patience that needs to be gone in and put in. So I think the recent generation really wants the immediate satisfaction and feel like after 6 months I'm not contributing to a team I feel like leaving, or like, or after I still hear this sometimes from my team, like it's been 2 years, do I need to job hop to get growth in the company? I feel like I'm not contributing to the team. But I think it takes more than 1 or 2 years to really make a difference sometimes. And it takes more than 1 or 2 years to build personal growth as well, to gain the experience within the company. So it's not that they are wrong. I think it really depends on the person and the situation. But understanding that the grit that you need to have when sometimes people ask me, do you ever feel like giving up or like quitting and just go and like work for someone else? So I would say like all the time. even up to now, even now, like I'm like, I quit. I tell my partner once, I told my CFO once, I quit. Oh wait, I can't, what's my notice period? Actually, do I need a contract? Because then we started thinking, oh yeah, actually the CEO should have a contract. Like maybe I should have a year's notice period. So if I want to put in my notice, yeah. So things like that, it happens all the time. But it's having, for me personally, building up a support system where I could share my problems with, or like speak to someone about it and then bounce back from that low is, yeah, it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. It's funny, isn't it? It's like you reach that moment, you're like, right, okay, I quit. But then that sparks, okay, well, actually, what does that mean for the business if I quit? Okay, we need to put some structure in around that.
Yeah.
Obviously not asking you to name anyone, but you mentioned that in terms of support networks, which I think is, I mean, for me personally, that's really important. Do you have mentors outside the business, within the business, completely removed from the business? You know, how do you structure that, or what do you have in place for that?
Yeah, I would say I'm very lucky because my husband is also an entrepreneur and he's working in the company. So I rely on his sentiment and his opinion and his guidance a lot. I guess that's why someone would have a partner, like when you run a business. But I have a lot of friends who are also entrepreneurs, but doing different product categories, and we meet once in a while to catch up and then support each other. I think it's important for us to share. I mean, the only thing I wouldn't share maybe is my supplier list, but I think it's like, which printer are you using, or like, hey, are you using, which mall is a great place to open? What do you think? I have an offer from a mall. Like, do you think it's a good offer or a bad offer? So I think helping each other and understanding that. Especially even like as a female founder, sometimes it can be very lonely, and nobody in your friendship circle would understand or see your perspective. So I feel that being free to share the information and then getting advice back in return is very rewarding. So I think everyone in my support system is also a mentor as well, and I give them advice as well. So it works both ways, yeah.
That leads me very well to the next question from Azani, which is, one of the things you do really well is using social media and building connections around you. So obviously, I'm sure there's lots of connections we don't see in terms of your peers in the entrepreneur space. But and yeah, we touched on this earlier, so maybe we can cover it now. But Azani is asking, how has building your personal brand helped with the success of ByInviteOnly? But maybe it's more the reverse of that, right? I don't know. I think it's a great question.
I have to admit, I have no strategy with my personal brand, and it's something that I'm still struggling with, because I feel like I shouldn't be working when it comes to my personal brand, because I like animals, so I take a lot of photos of my dogs, and maybe I don't wear as much jewelry as I should, because I see a lot of founders with like clothing brands. They are like always wrapping their brand, and like, but I want to buy jewelry from someone else sometimes, and I wear things that are passed down from my family, or like my husband buys me a gift that's not from my brand sometimes. So it's like, but is it bad for me to represent another jewelry brand, or like, yeah? So I struggle with the direction of how my personal brand should go, and I put a lot of emphasis on my time really on the brand side, my company's branding more than my personal brand. So I've not really decided like how it is similar. I think speaking to you earlier about this is that you see some similarities, because I have a very direct hand in managing the brand, and I guess certain beliefs that I have do flow into the company because I'm the decision maker. But at the same time, I have to understand that my customers may not be exactly like me. I think it is dangerous for me to start procuring products or buying products just because I like them, and not rely on the data that we have. Because there are many products that I truly design and love and manufactured, but they don't sell well. Yeah, so I'm the only customer, or there's only two of us. So it's very dangerous for me to be too overlapping with my brand sometimes, because my customer is sometimes different from me. I don't know whether that.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So do you ever have that moment though where like, oh my God, I really like this piece, but no one's buying it? And do you feel kind of...
And then sad face and like, okay, let's put this on sale. Yeah. So it happens a lot.
Do you with that, do you find there's times when do you want to kind of deliberately add some kind of separation between the two, or is it impossible to do that because of the nature of the business and the nature of the brand? And have you just learned to manage that?
Yeah, it's easier now because I have a team and they stand in between me and the brand. I really love that they are making decisions without me. I feel very proud when they decide something and work together in the background, and it doesn't need to involve me, and it works out beautifully. So those things are the moments that I live for. I also think that with different personalities in the team, they have different opinions, and something more beautiful will come out of it. So I truly agree that with more heads in the game, there are more ideas, there are more opinions, and the product will just be better. So we have a merchandising team that would look very closely on the sell-through rate, and every store has a different product mix. We also rely on the retail team's feedback on what sells, what doesn't sell. They have a say on what they want to place order. So for their store, so they would try to put in a request for certain things at a store, and then we will have to tell them, okay, that is in line with our strategy. We'll give you more of that. Or actually, we have other plans for this. So it's a constant communication with the different departments of the team. Yeah. So it's not just me anymore. I can't be like a dictator when it comes to yeah.
Okay, you mentioned about assortment and stores there. I'll come to that in a second, but just for anyone who's joining now, this is episode 110 of Overdose Chill Live, and I'm very lucky to be joined by Trixie Khong at ByInviteOnly. So on assortment, obviously I was looking at the different stores yesterday, and obviously each store kind of has its own identity. I guess it's like kind of own mini proposition. You know, how's that kind of been architected in terms of assortment, you know, location? You mentioned earlier there's a lot of thought goes into to which mall and so on. And you know, how are you managing, I guess, the assortment across those locations?
It really comes down to who our customer is. So we build personas around them, and then we categorize them into and prioritize them accordingly. And then we see whether the mall fits into that profile. So one mall might hit a certain customer group, but it might completely miss another potential customer base that we have overlooked. So as a young female jewelry brand, it would be direct or easy to assume that our customers are like 25 to 35 or even younger in the Gen Z, but actually a lot of our customers are in the 40 to 50 group as well, because we have a lot of, especially in our next store, which is a suburban mall, we are seeing a lot of like customers who are buying for their nieces, for their granddaughters, and they are buying as gifts. So if we just box ourselves into the 313 crowd, which is young Gen Z, young couples, young adults with maybe no children, young married adults. So I think we have to first explore, like, are there other types of customer profiles that we should target, and then that would inform us where we should open up in the store. And then with that perception, we have to kind of like observe the crowd at the store as well, physically, who is walking past our store, and what are things they are buying. So recently we just opened Gem, which is at Jurong in the west side.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have a lot of requests for a West store, because maybe they are working from home and they don't want to travel into town, which is always busy. So what we noticed is actually in the first week, Gem is really good at selling designs with pearls. So things like that. Yeah, so then it would inform the merchandising team to like, okay, we should put more pearl designs there. We should take all the designs that are not moving from the other stores and transfer it to Gem, and then doubling down on what is working over there. So it really is a lot of try and error. Even through all the planning, we can only hope that it will work out, but it's only through running the store day by day and getting their feedback that we will know more information about what the product mix should be. So it's really like 3 or 4 steps to get there. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a perfect example of what we at Overdose would call the trading mindset. So have you had to put anything in place to allow that, or to facilitate that ability to be responsive? So, you know, you've got the observation in terms of the pearl-based articles are selling well. do you have things in place that allow you to then move that from other stores and concentrate that in Gem, and obviously do the same in reverse for other articles, or has that kind of happened by chance?
I think it has always the simplest form of systems are in place. But yesterday we just had a huddle with all my managers, and they were saying, like, can we allow inter-store transfers? Simple things like that still needs to be workshopped, because there's a lot of small operational things that need to be in place before that can happen. We will need a delivery order from one store to another. We don't have a printer in the store. How are we going to, do we manually write down all the items that are being picked from store A to go to store B? And then who's responsible for if the jewelry gets missing from store A to store B? Things like that needs to be discussed and decided on. But even something like inter-store transfer, we are still trying to get a grip on that. So we are definitely working on improving our systems and making sure that we are more responsible with our carbon footprint as well. Because having them send the items back to the warehouse and then having the warehouse send it back to store B would be, getting extra, and it's not cost effective as well. Yeah. So we are working on it.
And another question from Angela in this area. So Angela's obviously a fan, as you can tell. By the way, the team was super happy with the tote bags the other week, so thank you very much for that. She's saying that the SKUs sell out too fast, and obviously you don't always restock all of them. Is there a strategy around, I guess, restocking in some pieces to actively keeping some pieces limited? And obviously, by definition, it's all kind of limited edition pieces, but is that something you actively pursue?
Yes, there are certain designs that sell out really fast, but at the time when you place the order, I think maybe 5 years ago, I was in a very naive position that, I'm excited about all these products, I'm going to sell all of them out. But the reality is only some of them would sell out fast and some would linger for a little longer. So that we can't put down 500 or 1,000 pieces of something that is a high quantity for all the designs if it's new. So we kind of have to test small and predict that, okay, this is going to do really well because of the price point, or because of its basic design, it's a classic design, so I think it will be well received. But versus a more complicated design, we might have lesser quantities for that. And then when it comes to a restock, we do have a back in stock notification, so we rely on that quite a lot to make our predictions. How fast a certain product gets out of the door, sells out online, also comes into the decision of whether something gets restocked. We do not try to keep a product going on for too long. An average lifespan of our products maybe about 6 to 12 months. And maybe only a handful, 10 of them are considered in a permanent collection, where we always make sure there is stock available as much as possible. So yeah. I think because we have about more than 1,000 SKUs at the moment, so we really rely on the rate of how fast the product sells, as well as the response and from social media and the buzz, and also feedback from even our influencers that we are working with, how excited they are to receive the products before we actually launch it. So all these play a factor. So I'm very sorry some of the products are always sold out. I will be better at inventory management. I think we need to improve on our forecasting and be more numbers driven instead of emotionally driven, because as much as possible we are a group of ladies looking at shiny objects, and we tend to get sidetracked sometimes when it comes to designs and so on. So there are certain designs that have more favorites than others.
But that's probably where the magic is, though. I think maybe that's the secret to the secret to the success story. But talking of the 1,000 SKUs, do you have a kind of number in mind where you think, okay, at some point there'll be there's a number of SKUs you don't want to get to because it will fundamentally change the shape of the business or the shape of your, manufacturing process or supply chain, or is that kind of, you're not there yet, and there's going to be more SKUs for a while?
I think because our product lifespan is about 3 to 6 months, we're not worried because there are always pieces of products that are not going to be restocked. So once a certain trend or a certain occasion for Valentine's Day, for example, we sell out on a lot of hard designs during Valentine's Day, but we choose not to bring back most of them until maybe the next festive gifting period, or maybe the next Valentine's Day we can tweak it a little bit. So we try to keep special occasions fresh and make sure. I think there is a demand because there is a supply issue. So if you're always available, we do realize that people take longer to decide, and we want to make it a bit special sometimes to only have one run of certain things, or we really love this design and it would work, but actually it's too expensive for our customers. Sometimes we put in designs that hurts, the margin is not great, but we know it's going to create something special for our customers. So we price it at a level that we feel that is suitable for our customer, but it's not so much for the profit. So it depends, and because the profit is not great, we don't keep restocking it. And it's more just to delight and create some sort of difference from the everyday. So it keeps our customers guessing and interested to open our emails or follow us on Instagram and so on. So there is an element of that, but we do realize that when things sell out, the popular items, especially in the permanent collection, it affects sales when we don't have stock. So we need to identify these pieces that people are always looking and buying every day, and making sure that they never run out, so that we keep our revenues constant.
And that brings me on quite nice to the next question. So obviously Southeast Asia, marketplaces are very dominant in the e-com landscape. You guys are a kind of inherently D2C brand for all the reasons that we talked about over the last kind of 40 minutes or so. Are you ever tempted to kind of dabble in marketplaces at all? Obviously I know there'd be huge parts of the range that wouldn't be suitable, but is it ever something that you think, okay, well maybe we could do this and it would be a volume play? Or
I'm not sure how it will affect the branding. So that is always something that I struggle with. Because I know people are shopping. I shop on Shopee or Lazada and Amazon, so I'm also a consumer of those platforms. But I struggle with the branding on those platforms and the frequent sales that are happening, because we run our own promotions as well. How do we not clash with the promotions that are running on Lazada and cannibalize our own promotions? How do we maybe we can have a outlet more digitally on Shopee or Lazada, so it's more for clearance items or sale items, but then the secondary consideration would be operational, because we need a separate team to do a different SOP, which we cannot afford to. So we really want to, especially now after the pandemic and also going hopefully not into a recession, we are trying to be more cautious with the money that we're spending. So we are always doubling down on things that are working instead of hiring too much headcount or exploring a new channel that we have no data on at the moment for at least the foreseeable 2 years.
Got it. Okay. And I guess we're coming to the end of the hour now. One thing I wanted to ask you is, how do you, and I always ask this to our guests, but how do you, and it's particularly interesting to you given the nature of the question, but how do you decouple from work and de-stress? I guess for you, your hobby is also your business. So is your hobby still something you can go to get away from things, or have you found new hobbies to just for a change?
Yeah, I recently read about burnout, because I feel like maybe I'm quite close to that, maybe 6 months ago. And one thing that they say is stress is like a tunnel. So you have to go through the tunnel. If not, that's when you will get stuck and you will burn out. So every day when you experience stress, when you go to the office or when you go to work and there's someone shouting at you or like something didn't go right and you feel stressed, you need to then de-stress immediately. And that's something that I learned in the last 3 months, to really find things that would de-stress me. And I'm not a big exercising person, but music, for example, really like puts me in a different mindset. Even just dancing in the shower or like just relaxing and just doing silly things at home myself actually de-stresses me. So finding out what works for me, or going for a long walk with my dogs, that really calms me down. So I've done a lot of walks in the last 6 months. Even 11 or 12 o'clock at night, I would just go out for a walk to really complete the circle or get out of the tunnel, so that the next day you don't get accumulated stress. So I think I always have this thinking that, like I will accumulate like all the stress and then maybe I'll go for a holiday, or I will accumulate the stress and then I would go for a party or like hang out with my friends and then go back to the work again. So I realized that de-stressing at that very moment, in the very day, is very important for keeping good mental health and keeping you going. I've made a lot of bad decisions when I am too stressed and or too tired. So sleep is really important for me. So I think different people have different ways of de-stressing. So understanding self-awareness, really important. And having conversations with yourself, like trying out different things. Okay, I don't like that. I'm not going to force myself to be in tights and going to a yoga class because I don't like having to, talk to people after a class, or like having to use a shower that is not at home. So maybe I have some quotes, but there are certain things that work for other people, but they don't work for me. I like to be in my space or decorate my space and then just have a zone out time. So understanding what I need first, and then doing it regularly to de-stress. Yeah. So that's my method.
That's really interesting. Yeah, lots I can relate to there, and probably a few things I should try, really. But I think it's a challenge for everyone, right? Because obviously, as regardless of what we do for a living, everything gets busier and everything's always on, and like you said, you've got to kind of remember what keeps you happy, and not kind of build up the baggage because expecting that, okay, in 3 months I can just offload everything. That's really good advice, actually.
I also think, sorry, just to add, I know.
Yeah, no, please do, because I love talking about this stuff.
I think if you're in the medical business, maybe you can't apply this, but no one's gonna die. If somebody, it's jewelry and it's sales, but no one's gonna die. So I always, like, the worst case scenario always comes to my head, and I go like, okay, do it tomorrow, put it down. Yeah. So I think that is quite helpful.
Yeah, that's really good advice. We always used to say it's banner ads, not babies. I guess that's a similar sentiment. But that just about wraps up. So listen, Trixie, it's been awesome to have you. You're just such an amazing story and such a success story. And thank you for sharing all of that with us. And also, just on behalf of us and the team, thank you very much for trusting us to help you in our small way along that success story. So yeah, we really enjoy working with you. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was really good having a chat with you. And I really love working with your team. And I think my team can say the same as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Trixie.
Thank you.